Everybody stopped clapping at the same time. You guys all have the exact same sense of, that must be what it's like to be British. You just all have what is okay, the exact amount of everything that's all right. I don't know. And so I asked, how much do you give a tip here? And they're like, whatever you feel is proper. And I'm like, but how much do you give a tip here? Hi, everybody. It occurs to me, hearing my introduction, that I never founded anything on my own except for 2D glasses. I co-founded everything else. I just need a lot of help with stuff. So that was my brother. Did you guys like my brother? John May Woo. Oh, hi. You guys just get the back view. Also, you guys, hi. That must be interesting. I'll be singing to them mostly. Sorry. Guitar plugged in, making noise. I can't tell. I assume it is. Okay. I'm going to sing you some songs. I've decided that I'm going to sing you a song about science right now. I generally write songs about stuff I like. I actually am working on a song right now about a terrible, terrible ex-girlfriend, and it's one of the only songs I've ever written that is about something I don't like. You'll hopefully hear that one someday, but I only have one verse so far. So this song is about science. It's one of my favorites. It's about quarks. Well, that's a weird thing to scream about. A quark is a fundamental constituent of matter observed in 1968 through deep elastic scatter. We found that protons aren't as simple as we thought. We thought they were solid particles, but they are not. Protons are back made up of increases. It just gets more confusing as our knowledge increases. And that is what a quark is. It's a piece of a proton. And they also make up other things, including the neutron. Oh, up, down, strange, jump, top, bottom. If you don't know what a quark is, it don't matter. You still got them. And the leptons and bosons, unless something's amiss, they make up everything that we can see and that we know exists. They made up of quarks, including protons and neutrons, are composite particles that physicists call hadrons. Many types of hadrons are theoretically described, but most exist for only very brief amounts of time. Quarks have electric charge, color charge, mass, and spin. And how the color charge may exist solely inside of other kinds of particles that cannot exist alone. Which quarks have never been studied on their own. Oh, up, down, strange, jump, top, bottom. If you don't know what a quark is, it don't matter. You still got them. And the leptons and bosons, unless something's amiss, they make up everything that we can see and that we know exists. Well, quarks are joined together in two different ways. Baryons and mesons both most instantly decay. If a particle has three quarks, then it's a baryon. If there's one quark and an anti-quark, then it is a meson. These tiny bits of matter are part of almost everything. There is no unified theory to make it less confusing, but the fact that we've identified that they exist at all is so freaking remarkable that I just sit in awe. Oh, up, down, strange, jump, top, bottom. If you don't know what a quark is, it don't matter. You still got them. And the leptons and bosons, unless something's amiss, they make up everything that we can see and that we know exists. Down, strange, jump, top, bottom. If you don't know what a quark is, it don't matter. You still got them. And the leptons and bosons, unless something's amiss, they make up everything that we can see and that we know exists. They make up everything that we can see and that we know exists. They make up everything that we can see and that we know exists. They make up everything that we can see and that we know exists. They make up everything that we can see and that we know exists. They make up everything that we can see and that we know exists. You guys, I have like 3 more in me. And he started laughing, so he just gave up. But I said, what's this? Oh, what's this? Is that there the whole time? Thanks. It's to John. crap, cause we all know he's crap. And I want J.K. Rowling to say that Voldemort had a son, and the story's just begun. And I want J.K. Rowling to say she's writing a book. It's a dimension of mortal, and I think Sirius is in Middle Earth. And I know I want to hear the one about Hagrid's cat and Hagrid's mom. I really think that that's nearly impossible. I think there's probably a good story there.
What was the original working title for the Baltimore Stars? Well, there were a lot of titles, like the Word document was called Sequel, but by the time, I save each draft differently, so I think like the one that was published was like Sequel 269 or something, I don't know. But we very nearly called it the Sequel, because of the idea of trying to find a sequel to an Imperial fiction. But then we didn't, because that would have been commercial suicide. Everyone would have been like, the sequel to what? I don't get it. You think you're so clever. I might call my next book the sequel, though I really like that title. We also, for a long time, we were very close to calling it the Hectic Glow, which is See, there's a lot of support for that title. I think I'll call my next book the Hectic Glow instead. The problem with the Hectic Glow is that it's extremely difficult to say. And so if you want to recommend a book to your friends, which I hope that you will, you don't want to be like, I read this book, it's called like the Metric Snow, or it's called something. It was good. You should read it. Doesn't work. Also, but that title comes from a great line in Thoreau's Diaries where he says, decay and disease are often beautiful like the pearly tear of the shellfish or the hectic glow of consumption. And that idea of the hectic glow of consumption was something that you read about a lot, like Dostoevsky, well, in the English translations of Dostoevsky it was used in like medical textbooks as a sign of tuberculosis, this sort of rosy-cheeked glow that was sort of seen as beautiful. And tuberculosis, that's from Fiona, by the way. Yeah, I mean, the end took many tries, so I'll go with the last like 10 pages. And then when I finally wrote the last 10 pages, which is a question, the next question, how did you feel when you finished writing TFIOS? That's not from anybody in particular, but it's someone who had a blue sparkly pen. How did I feel when I finished writing TFIOS? I remember I was in a coffee shop when I finally wrote the last like 5 pages, no spoilers, don't worry. And I essentially collapsed into a puddle of sobs. I was in this Starbucks that I wrote the whole book in, and I'm sure they thought I was a very strange person because, as far as they knew, I just showed up every morning around 7:30 or 8 o'clock. I opened my computer, I cried for 4 hours, I closed my computer and left, thanking them on my way out. Thanks for another great day. It was very sad. I mean, I wrote, to be honest, a lot of the book was written in grief and in anger and in a time of great sadness in my life and fear too. So there was a lot going on. I'd just become a father, and so I couldn't help but think differently about the kids in the book because I suddenly understood the relationship between parents and kids in a way that I hadn't understood it before. So yeah, that part was hard. Why did you choose Amsterdam to be the city they visited in The Fault in Our Stars? A lot of people think I chose Amsterdam because I had a writing residency there, and I got to live there for 2 months. And so I was like, screw it. But no, I had written all the Amsterdam parts before I went to Amsterdam. I'd written them years before. I chose Amsterdam. I mean, I love Amsterdam as a city. I think it's a really fascinating city. It's a very vibrant city. It's very alive in a way that, frankly, like a place like Venice isn't. But it's also drowning. I mean, thanks to like Dutch engineers, it will probably be the last city left in the world. When the seas rise, Amsterdam will still be there. But we'll all be gone. But the Dutch will be fine. You know, it's a very vibrant city, but it's also a city that by all rights should not exist because of drowning. And that's very much the relationship that Hazel also has with water. There's this liquid that's filling up her lungs that has to be drained out of the chest tube. So water is both what makes her life possible and what in the end will make her life short. And so I wanted to find a different way to reflect that in Amsterdam. So like a good city to kind of talk about that. And I think at one point, Hazel even says, like, I guess I was Dr. Maria's Amsterdam. Like she makes that connection herself. Have you ever cried over the Baltimore Stars? I think I might have already answered that. I mean, I didn't think it was that sad of a book. I wanted it to be really funny. I did. I really wanted it to be funny. And I kept giving pages to Sarah, who, my wife reads my books first, and I would give her pages, and I'd be like, I waited so long for this voice and this story to work, you know, that like I was incredibly excited, like a schoolgirl. Every time I would come home, every day I would come home and give Sarah pages, and I'd be like, read it. Do you mind if I watch? Do you mind if I... Isn't it good? And she would read it, and she'd be like, it's very sad. And I'd be like, not really, though, right? I mean, it's pretty funny. It's really sad. I think it's quite funny. And I still do. I think I must have an exceptionally high tolerance for fun, or low tolerance for funny, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I wanted it to reflect what I'd seen and experienced, which was, you know, people who I could love partly because they were so funny and alive. Yeah, and I tried really hard to do that, but then I guess it ended up just being very sad. And no one's ever like, John, you look so funny. Everyone's always like, oh, my feels. I don't even know what that means. I don't know if that's good or bad. This would be the last question, I guess, so I don't get hit. How did you come up with all the names, like Gus and Hazel, who have special meanings? Well, yeah, I mean, I don't, when you write a book over the course of 10 years, you have a lot of time to screw around and think of stuff, you know? So I'm just going to watch myself count down the time here. With Gus, Augustus is the name of Roman emperors. Like all the Roman emperors were called Augustus somewhere in one of their like 37 names. But the first Roman emperor was just Emperor Augustus. And so it really is an imperial name. But the Gus is a name of like a little kid. Like it's a short monosyllabic name. It makes you picture someone quite small. And that journey from Augustus to Gus is really the journey that he must go on. Like, you know, when Hazel first meets Augustus, he's super charming and charismatic, almost in a performative way, right? Like, Gus is constantly, like, slightly misusing words because he knows a lot of big words and he wants to make sure that you know that he knows them, but he doesn't quite always know what they mean. So at one point, like, I think he actually says to Hazel, like, stop talking, I'm in the middle of a memorized soliloquy. He meant monologue, but he says soliloquy. And because like he's so performed that like he obviously sat at home and memorized what he wanted to say to this girl, which is kind of charming but kind of not. You know, I've always grown up being taught and seeing in the stories that dominated my cultural life growing up that the hero's journey is the journey from weakness to strength. But the journey that Gus must go on is the journey from strength to weakness. And I think that is the real hero's journey. And that to me is why Gus is a heroic character, is because not always happily and not always willingly, he is able to make that journey from strength to weakness and to still be available to love and be loved. Hazel's name is just an in-between color, Hazel, like it's between two colors, and Hazel is in between many states. She's in between health and wellness, she's in between, you know, teenage earnest and adult earnest, and in between many other states as well. So that's stop.
I don't have very many secrets anymore, to be honest.
Seriously though, I can't do that.
At some point, I definitely told Nerdfighteria that you called me right after you first had sex.
Why does this not surprise me?
Because people will mention that to me. They'll be like, what do you think John was thinking when? And I was like, when did I say that?
Here is where you said it, for one thing. Just because you said something once doesn't mean that you have to say it twice. That was, of course, the evening of my wedding.
It's your turn. How do you know when you're in love? Is it when Hank calls you after sex?
It's
when you call your brother.
Well, there are all these things that in our culture we treat as events, like marriage is one, virginity is actually a good example of another. Like, you know, you can do A, B, C, D, E, F, G through X and still be a virgin, but Y and Z, no longer a virgin. Lots of things that we treat as events that are actually processes. Also, like when we talk about like being born again or whatever, these things are almost never events, they're almost always processes. Being and falling in love is not an event, it is not something that happens to you. It is or not something that happens to you all at once. It is something that like occurs over a long period of time, like your hair going gray. So, and then you look and you're like, oh, I have gray hair. Or, oh, I guess I'm in love.
I want to know what Y and Z were.
Somebody wants to sing that song for us? Alright, then we'll give you this question. Ennui, discuss.
Pose two.
I don't know why I look so fly, but I am. Oh my. Oh my, got a little rise off. You sitting on the big shelter, puffy, crumple, let me down, back to the house, back to the puffy. Gotta be the one about the look, instead of a man. I want to understand that I was minutes instead of a team, but I get it when I can. I don't want to wind up with a good overball, I'm all looking because I never got to call, telling me that it's all figured out, sing it down, but I'm looking at the wall. Part of me was hoping to be caught up in the good forgotten, but I got out of the bomb, you gotta get that out of me, and I'm expecting to spend about a thought of me, John. Since John was a little bit ago talking about Baltimore Stars, I want to play a song about Baltimore Stars, which I don't know if it's on any of my albums or has ever been released anywhere, so you may have never heard it before. But it's from the perspective of a teenage girl, so just imagine. It's the only song I ever wrote the chord progression before I wrote the words, because I was like doing this one day and I was like, this is nice. And then John wrote a really beautiful book, and so I was like, okay, fine, I'll use it. That's what I forget how my song started. We all can dream of blazing glories, but all I dream of now is you and your blue eyes. It's strange to think how we can feel we don't live our lives. I wasn't sure about my own, but now I'm feeling fine. Your video game books might get me funny looks, but Staff Sergeant Max Mayhem gets me high. Not just what you want from me, but what you want to get from what you got. There's not a lot of amputee heroes in history. And I wish our lives were so much simpler. And I hope you get to have your moment in the fight, but no one ever gets to be quite who they want to be. You want it to matter, boy, well, you matter to me. Your video game books, they might give me funny looks, but Staff Sergeant Matt's hand gets me on. And I'm starting to see not just what you want from me, but what you want to get from what you got. There's not a lot of amputee heroes in history, but I got one sitting right in front of me. And it's called the 50s progression because it was popular in the 50s with songs like Oh darling, why must I be a teenager in love? But I like the alternate name of it a lot, called the Ice Cream Changes, because it didn't just happen in the 50s, it's been popular before then and after then. So I like the Ice Cream Changes. It's also just sort of a wonderful name for this, because it feels right, you know, because it's like smooth like ice cream, and everybody likes it like ice cream. Except for lactose intolerant people. But I don't care about you. But it was popular after the 50s on into the 60s with songs like Duke a Earl, Duke a Earl, Duke a Earl. I did it. And I'd like to be under the sea in the Montroses garden in the shade. And then on into the 70s, one of my favorite songs is actually designed to sound like it's from the 50s. I remember when rock was young, me and Susie had so much fun, holding hands and skimming stones. I had an old gold Chevy and a place of my own. And then on to the 80s, it's a little bit different and creepier. Every breath you take, every move you make, every bond you break, every step you take, I'll be watching you. And then in the 90s, it was changed even more. A band that I loved a lot when I was in the 90s age. I'm not going to talk about how old I was then. But it went from 2 or 4 beats for chord change to 1. So yeah, that's fun, right? She has a girlfriend now. She has a girlfriend now. She has a girlfriend now. She says, guys don't do no more for me. And no one is immune. I like this chord progression, so I use it. You don't love me cause I'm not Edward Cullen. I can wear sparkly makeup and act all brave and sullen. I don't have a favorite dummy cause I've never seen that show. And I don't have a favorite dummy cause I'm 31 years old. And also, I mean, the songs we've heard so far, pretty happy songs. But it's not all happy songs with the Ice Cream Changes. You may recognize this one. Expect. I did my time. But it's usually happy songs. Justin Bieber, our old friend, brought it back recently. The happiness. Like baby, 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 oh. Baby, baby, oh. Who would have thought? But then in 2011, 2011 sorry, the biggest song of the year, really, in 2011, depending on your definition of year, and also your definition of song. We're gonna do this thing. 7 a.m. wake up in the morning, man. As a guy who always had to rhyme life with strife. Yes, I've been burned and I've been disturbed, and through it all, my friends, I've learned that love is not about whether you get stabbed, it's how slow the knife gets turned. But, my friends, I found an animal who doesn't feel this pain. My love is so much better now that I can feel the same. Because you take the night, you feel like you got like a the never wish to hear you let go. Yeah, the juicy implication has no reason to be happy, but it's not an idea. What else to be? Well, the umbrella story is direct. Find a way they are all here together when it's like a broker to see what the night they got about a female on her side, and then slowly he becomes her producer parasite. And if we could say he lives it all, he lives it till she dies, and until that day he literally diaries, whatever it is, the stuff that we make together is the great privilege of Hank and I's professional life. It is so wonderful to be able to make gifts for you, and then in turn to have you make gifts for us. So thank you so much for that. And as we say in my hometown, don't forget to be awesome. Entertain, the pain is the same. And if I feel it all the time, can you really call it pain? Well, I don't have any friends and I don't have any hair, but neither does the anglervision, she doesn't give. In the night, oh, like without like a can, the fish, if only ever you catch a can, you love all of it, I would never know. Now that it's the anglervision, haven't seen every time, but I think I can. I'm gonna be the man who's
No, that's the end. When I go out, when I go out!
When I go out, well, you know I'm gonna be very determined. And when I come home, yeah, you know I'm gonna be the man who's coming home to you. I'm gonna be the man who's coming home to you.
You know this part. 'Cause I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walked 1,000 miles to fall down at your door. Cause I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the